It's more like watching someone's home movies, but I found myself somewhat captivated by it.
Just what you've been waiting for. Movies, TV, music, and more. Follow, subscribe, stay up to date. Episodes drop every other Monday. It's the Matt, watch that. It's the Matt, watch that. It's the Matt, watch that podcast.
Welcome everybody to the Matt Watch That podcast, the place for reviews, rants, and randomness. I'm your host, Matt Seroski, filmmaker, film fan. Each episode, I'm going to watch a movie or TV pilot that I probably should have seen but never got around to. It could be a recent favorite, critic's choice, or cult classic. To join in on the conversation, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Matt Seroski. You can subscribe to my YouTube page where I'll post videos and clips from the show. If you have any opinions on what I've discussed, or suggestions as to what I should see next, use the hashtag MattWatchThat on social. Before we start, a couple of weeks ago, Netflix released a trailer for Mr. McMahon, a docuseries about Vince McMahon, former owner of the WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment, or if you're old like me, WWF, World Wrestling Federation. And I have a couple of thoughts. Now, I appreciate everything that Vince McMahon has done for wrestling. People who are frequent listeners of the podcast should know that by now. I've been watching since I was 6, 7, who knows. But it didn't matter if it was WCW, Glow, WWF, ECW, AWA, USWA. If it was on TV, I was watching it. Yes, it's silly. It's a male soap opera. But when it's good, it's really good. And when it's bad, well, you have the Shockmaster, the Ding-Dongs, the Gobbledygooker. Yeah, those are all real things. But he took a sideshow and made it mainstream. He got MTV on board, Cyndi Lauper, Mr. T, Muhammad Ali, Liberace, Andy Warhol. The list of celebrities who have appeared at WrestleManias and other events is quite large. But with all that being said, the more that I got to see of Vince McMahon, the less that I liked him. I remember him doing an interview with Bob Costas, and he was just trying to be a big bully. With another interviewer, he tried to slap the papers out of his hands. Then he started reading in the dirt sheets all of these rumors about how he treats the wrestlers, and you had the Montreal Screwjob. And then he started suggesting storylines where he's the father of his daughter's child. I mean, very Trumpian in nature. So I just got this feeling that he wasn't a good guy. So I watched the trailer, and my first impressions were not very good, because I got this feeling that they were trying to pawn this off as if Mr. McMahon is a character. Like, don't believe everything you see and read. This is just the on-air character. And I was a little worried because Monday Night Raw is actually moving to Netflix next year. And even though Vince McMahon doesn't own the WWE anymore, they still have a familial connection to it. So I'm not sure if Netflix wants to ruffle any feathers. I hope I'm wrong. I don't necessarily need all the dirty laundry to be aired. I try to be a positive person. I don't need to see someone's life fall apart. But I also want a truthful documentary. And the fact of the matter is, over the years, the WWE has been involved in a lot of scandals, and they all seem to circle one person, Vince McMahon. On to the main attraction. Each review will end with a ranking out of 5 stars. 1 star is skip it, 2 stars watch at your own risk, 3 stars standard fare, 4 stars worth checking out, and 5 stars must see. Now, if I give a title 5 stars, it doesn't mean I'm comparing it to Casablanca, Jaws, or Seinfeld. I rank titles based on other movies or TV series in that genre and at that time period. On this episode of the podcast, I'll be reviewing Easy Rider from 1969. It was directed by Dennis Hopper, who helmed metadrama The Last Movie, police procedural Colors, and thriller The Hot Spot. He was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actor in a Supporting Role for Hoosiers. The screenplay was written by Peter Fonda, who scribed action-adventure Enemy, Terry Southern, who penned Cold War comedy Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb, poker drama The Cincinnati Kid, and science fiction flick Barbarella, and the aforementioned Dennis Hopper. The trio would be nominated for Best Writing, Story and Screenplay based on material not previously published or produced. It stars Peter Fonda as Wyatt, aka Captain America, son of acclaimed actor Henry Fonda and socialite Francis Ford Seymour, and big brother of Jane Fonda. His feature film debut was in the romantic comedy Tammy and the Doctor with Sandra Dee. His next role in the World War II drama The Victors earned him a Golden Globe Award for Most Promising Newcomer. During the 1960s, he became the face of the counterculture movement. While on an acid trip at a party with the Byrds and the Beatles, he inspired the song She Said, She Said after telling John Lennon and George Harrison of an incident when he was a child where he accidentally shot himself, uttering to them, "I know what it's like to be dead," which was used in the lyrics. He worked with Roger Corman on the biker flick The Wild Angels and psychedelic film The Trip, but his breakthrough would be in this movie. He also appeared in Future World, The Cannonball Run, Escape from LA, and 3:10 to Yuma. He made a cameo appearance in Bodies, Heat, and Motion, which starred his daughter Bridget Fonda. He directed the critically acclaimed feature The Hired Hand in 1971, and directed his father in Wanda, Nevada in 1979. He was nominated for 2 Academy Awards, including Best Actor in a Leading Role for Ulee's Gold in 1998. Dennis Hopper portrays Billy, a student of the Actors Studio in New York. He made appearances on television series Cavalcade of America, Medic, Public Defender, and The Loretta Young Show, before landing a part in his big screen film debut, Rebel Without a Cause. He became close with James Dean, who encouraged him to pursue his interest in photography, and eventually published a book of photos in the late 1980s. They would co-star in Giant, which was released a year after Dean's untimely death. He would start his westerns phase with Gunfight at the OK Corral in 1957, The Sons of Katie Elder in 1965, Hang 'em High in 1968, and True Grit to round out the 60s. He also appeared in crime drama Cool Hand Luke. Hopper would move into his loose cannon roles with Mad Dog Morgan, The American Friend, Apocalypse Now, Rumblefish, and Blue Velvet. He received an Academy Award nomination in 1986 for Best Actor in a Supporting Role in Hoosiers. The 90s would bring big hits, True Romance and Speed, and some memorable misses, Super Mario Bros. And Waterworld. Outside of acting, he was in the top 100 collectors of modern art, and the first buyer of Andy Warhol's infamous Campbell Soup's can paintings. Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper appeared in The Trip, which was written by Jack Nicholson. Easy Rider also features 3-time Academy Award, the aforementioned Jack Nicholson, character actor Luke Askew, music producer Phil Spector, Mickey singer Tony Basil, and 5 Easy Pieces Oscar nominee Karen Black. This is something to look out for. The commune scene features 33 extras in the 360 camera pan, which includes an uncredited Bridget Fonda. So let's jump into it. Wyatt and Billy arrive at La Contenta Bar in Mexico on their motorcycles to score cocaine from a dealer. They drive back to Los Angeles and find a buyer who pays a ton of cash. Wyatt puts their earnings in a clear tube and hides it in the fuel tank of his red, white, and blue chopper. Then they embark on a cross-country trip to New Orleans to catch Mardi Gras. So that's it. That's the storyline. Here's a quote without context. They'll talk to you, and they'll talk to you, and they'll talk to you about individual freedom, but they see a free individual, it's gonna scare them. Easy Rider is not much of a film. It's more like watching someone's home movies. But I found myself somewhat captivated by it. There's not much of a story to it. Normally I try to put some heft into my summaries, but there wasn't much to be had in that respect. That doesn't mean that nothing happened in the story. There were hitchhikers, drugs, women, and an ending that got a little dark, but not much cohesion. There was a scene that took place near an airport and planes were flying overhead, which made it difficult for them to speak, so no dialogue was present, just the sounds of the engines roaring. They communicated through facial expressions. It's a simple scene, but quite effective in that they didn't need dialogue. But I think in modern films, there would have been a whole conversation, and I could see it being very farcical. 2 people trying to yell over the sound, a misunderstanding ensues. There were a couple of interesting film/editing choices. The scenes would cut back and forth in quick succession. Another had fast zooms in and out. I think they were either high when editing the film or expected the viewers to be high while watching it. The film is about the counterculture movement that was happening in the 1960s, and while there are people in every generation that pushes the norm, I'm not sure who the audience is for this type of film now. Now for a little trivial trivia. Producers Bob Rafelson and Bert Schneider helped finance the movie with the profits they earned as creators of the series The Monkees. Easy Rider was produced by the Pando Company and Raybert Productions, and distributed by Columbia Pictures. It was filmed across California, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, and Louisiana. The cinematography was captured by Laszlo Kovacs, whose filmography includes drama 5 Easy Pieces, supernatural comedy Ghostbusters, romantic dramedy Say Anything, and action comedy Miss Congeniality. It was edited by Don Camburn, who worked on coming-of-age drama The Last Picture Show, action comedy Hooper, and romantic thriller The Bodyguard. He was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Film Editing of Romancing the Stone. There was no score, but the soundtrack featured songs by Steppenwolf, The Byrds, The Band, The Jimi Hendrix Experience. The licensing of the songs cost more than the entirety of the film's budget, but the gamble paid off. The soundtrack peaked at number 6 on the Billboard Top 200 and was certified gold. The runtime is 1 hour 36 minutes. It had a budget of $400,000 and grossed $60 million at the box office. It was nominated for 2 Oscars at the 1970 Academy Awards. In 1998, it was selected for the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress for being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. Filmmaker Dustin Reichert released Easy Rider, the ride back that focused on the family of Wyatt and served as a prequel and sequel to the original. Though no one from the cast or crew of Easy Rider were involved, and it's generally looked at as non-lore. On the Ski Index, I give it 2.5 out of 5 stars. Add 1.5 stars if you watch it high as a kite. I know the rating might sound unfair, because I just gave Street Fighter 3 stars, and I don't think anyone would compare the two, but I am putting it in context of the time period and other movies in the genre. And of course I have to take in entertainment value, and this one didn't hit for me. If you've seen Easy Rider and have opinions on the movie, let me know what you think using the hashtag MattWatchThat. Moving right along, each episode, I'm gonna post clips that I think people should watch. It could be movie trailers, music videos, interviews, or something completely random. Search for my YouTube page and there'll be a playlist called Matt Watch That Playback. Ever since the Mets came into existence in 1962, fans have had to endure the hardship of mismanagement, bad contracts, and awful trades. But we've always had great announcers, and for the past 18 years, we've had the fortune to have the best booth in baseball, Gary, Keith, and Ron. Now, a few months ago, during the Subway Series with the Mets vs. Yankees, SNY ran an ad on the Yes Network touting that the Mets had the best booth in baseball. That's the ultimate troll. And Michael Kay was so insecure about it that he went on a 10-minute rant during his radio show about how he thinks he's the best announcer in baseball. First off, when you're the best, you don't have to try and convince others. They just know. Secondly, you should be huffing and puffing at your own network. They chose to take an advertisement from a competitor channel. And yes, they could have rejected it. Or maybe you could complain to management that they didn't think of buying an ad on SNY. And how did the best booth in baseball, Gary, Keith, and Ron, respond? Well, they made a single joke about it, without referencing Michael Kay or any part of his rant. Then they laughed and moved on. You know, for an organization that's won 27 championships, 19 before the best players were allowed to compete against their white counterparts, they're some of the most insecure people I've ever encountered. If something bad happens to the Mets, and it often does, Yankees fans will flood social media with memes. When something bad happens to the Yankees, you know what you hear from Mets fans? Crickets. You know why? We just don't think about you. You're like the older brother who wants so badly for their younger sibling to admire you and all your achievements, And we couldn't care less. We have the best booth in baseball, and our fans will watch all the games, even the blowouts, because Gary, Keith, and Ron are that entertaining. We have the richest owner in baseball who's building the franchise from the ground up with prospects. I just want them to slow down on handing out those retired numbers. I don't want to become the Yankees. They have a vast history of incredible players, but the way they retire numbers, one day their players are going to have to start using halves. Approaching the plate, shortstop, number 55 and a half, Hayden Abernathy. This year was a roller coaster season. The Mets were bad, then they were good, then they were bad again, then they were kinda good, and as of this recording, they're still in the hunt. We'll see where this team ends up. So I'm going to share a couple of clips as to why the Mets have the best booth in baseball. They're all available in the Matt Watch That playback playlist on YouTube. Check it out. Now it's time for the recommendation. Yes, that's the word recommendation with Matt in the middle. I'm going to end each podcast with my own recommendation of a movie or TV series. Today I'm talking about Real Steel. It tells a story of Charlie Kenton, a former fighter who now competes in underground boxing via larger-than-life, remote-controlled robots to make ends meet. After his latest robot crashes and burns, he's short on cash and looking for a quick buck. When he learns that his ex-girlfriend has suddenly died, and finds out that he has an 11-year-old son, he agrees to sign over custody of Max to his maternal aunt and husband after they return from holiday for a down payment on a robot. Now, based on that description, Charlie sounds like a terrible person. He's basically using his son as a bargaining chip to swindle money from a couple. While that is despicable, it does give the character a larger arc to overcome by the end of the movie. Real Steel is a father-son road trip picture, and in the end, turns into a feel-good film. We watch as their relationship grows from acrimonious to affectionate, but it never crosses the line of being schmaltzy. I think it hits all the right notes. It stars Wolverine himself, Hugh Jackman, Evangeline Lilly from Lost, and child actor Dakota Goyo. It also features Anthony Mackie, Hope Davis, James Rebhorn, Kevin Durand, Carl Yoon, and Olga Fonda. It was directed by Sean Levy, producer of Stranger Things.
Inevitable Stranger Things reference.
And just coming off the success of Deadpool and Wolverine, which is now the highest-grossing R-rated film. The screenplay was written by John Gaddens, adapted from a story by Dan Gilroy and Jeremy Levin. It was based on the short story Steel by Richard Matheson, published in the May 1956 issue of the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction, which was turned into an episode of The Twilight Zone. The score was composed by Danny Elfman, and one of his more subtle pieces of music. I really enjoyed this movie. You're invested in these characters, including their junkyard robot find Adam, who is an animatronic Rocky. It falls in line with other family-friendly feel-good movies that Sean Levy is known for directing, Big Fat Liar, Cheaper by the Dozen, and the Night at the Museum trilogy. There is a fun little game that you can play to make the film more enjoyable. Take a shot every time Evangeline Lilly's character says Charlie. You'll be drunk by the middle of Act 2. That's all for this edition of Matt Watch That. Thanks for listening to me babble. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Matt Seroski. You can subscribe to my YouTube page where I'll post videos and clips from the show. If you have any opinions on what I've discussed or suggestions as to what movie or TV pilot I should see, use the hashtag MattWatchThat on social. Head over to mattseroski.com for all the latest news and updates, and come back next time for the reviews, rants, and randomness. He also appeared in Future World, The Cannonball Run, Escape from LA, and 2:30 to Yuma. Yeah. He made appearances on television series Cavalcade of America, Medic, Public Defender, and the Yellow